Aha! The stream is live, and welcome everybody to the Speakeasy podcast number 6, I think. Today we're going to be talking about PC gaming after we get through with the news. But joining me today, as always, is MrBrotaku,
What's up?
OPNerd,
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show. I let OPNerd pretend like he runs things, but it's my show. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
and Stealth Monkey.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Returning guests.
Yes, the first returning guest. He was so good the first time we had to have him again. We just had to have more. Anyway, the first topic for today's news items is The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt has been released. I know MrBrotaku has been playing it, so you can go
Yay.
first.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yeah.
Hey, all I can say is I think that this is the best role-playing game to come out since Skyrim. That's my opinion.
How many hours have you put into it so far?
I have only put in like 8 or 10, but I think that so far it's rivaling how fun Skyrim was when I spent my first weekend playing it. I definitely think it's there. I think that all those, because you were talking about some of the bad things about the game, The Witcher 1 and 2 earlier, OPNerd, about how the combat system and all that kind of stuff was kind of iffy and all that. I feel like they fixed that. They really did. I mean, the combat, honestly, to me, it feels almost toward Dark Souls in a way. Because I know there was a Griffin fight that I did, and that Griffin fight was amazing. So I will say the combat's amazing. The leveling seems awesome so far. I love how they can turn it into a completely open world, and instead of how, like in the previous games, it was kind of linear for the most part. I mean, there was some, ways that you could branch out and all that kind of stuff, but you actually get to go in a full open world, and it's a really, really big world too. And then, of course, they added the horses, and they added all kinds of other stuff too, which I really appreciated. It's pretty awesome.
To add on to what you're talking about, open world, it's actually a region open world. It consists of different areas without loading screens, but from area to area, you kind of have to go on like a boat ride or over a bridge or something like that, which is pretty much your little loading screen. And from a little bit of research I found, it's like 20% bigger than the size of Skyrim, with that little change in between it. So it's a pretty game too.
I haven't played it. I don't own it yet. I am in no rush to buy it, but it's a must buy for me. I will end up playing this eventually. I loved the first two Witcher games. I know I have a feeling I'm kind of alone in my love for the original Witcher, which I liked. But the series as a whole is fantastic, and I'll play it eventually. Again, maybe a year from now, when the Game of the Year edition that includes some of the paid for content that there's going to be a lot of free DLC. We know that, but there's also going to be some additional content you'll have to pay for. And once it's all packaged together at a cheaper price, and the bugs that are going to pop up have been ironed out, then I'll probably get it. But congratulations to CD Projekt Red for the accolades that the game has received. I'm sure they are well deserved.
You know what? I can't currently afford it. I would love to get it. Maybe I'll win it in MrBrotaku's stream.
Ooh.
But
Yeah, I'm keeping that running.
And maybe
yeah. So if anybody wants to win it,
maybe if you don't win it, maybe MrBrotaku won't be on the podcast anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Stealth Monkey's vying for that spot. Who knows what could happen?
I will say, though, that as much as I don't really care for The Witcher 1, and I think The Witcher 2 is okay, I still think that you should give them a shot and play them, just for the aspect of the fact that they are really good games. The story is amazing, and most of the time they're on sale for like $2 a piece. So go pick them up for
five
next to nothing.
They were just on sale a couple of weeks ago for The Witcher 2 was $5, and I think the original was like $2.50.
Hey, you gotta get that promotion up for the new game. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely, Witcher 3, thumbs up for me, and I definitely would recommend it so far. I'm going to continue to play it, and I'll give you guys a better estimation on it later, but for now, it's awesome.
All right, next up.
All right, next up is a game that probably nobody but me actually cares about.
Oh, jeez.
Stretch Mo!
Another block game. Why don't we?
Hey, it's Minecraft with guns. No, Stretch Mo. Stretch Mo
Man.
is
Shots fired.
Probably none of you guys have actually heard about this. I only heard about this a little while ago. I was just browsing the 3DS eShop on my 3. I was like, oh, that looks like a cute game. And then I didn't get it. But Stretch Mo has just come out. And it's it's interesting not because of the type of game it is. It's a cool puzzle game, whatever. But it's interesting because Nintendo calls it free to start, which I'm on the webpage now showing it to the stream. Free to start. And I actually downloaded the game and played it today, just so I knew what I was getting into when I had it on the podcast. You download the game for free, and you play the first 7 levels of it for free. And the 7 levels, like 3 of them are very basic tutorials, which I got stuck on one of them because I'm an idiot. But and then after that, you can there are actually some decent levels within that 7-level starter pack thing. Then after that, you can buy extra packs of levels. I was like, it sounds like an okay idea, but how much are they going to cost? And of course, Nintendo prices them extremely well, like their DLC for Mario Kart 8. You buy, let me see, I have it written down here. 250 levels are available to buy, and if you buy them all together in a pack, it's $10. For
it's like a price of a full
250
game.
levels. So that's the levels. The easy ones don't take that long, but you can buy them individual packs, or you can buy 250 levels for $10. It's a really good deal, I think. But something I noticed today when browsing the store was, once you buy 1 pack of levels, you unlock the ability to make and play custom levels. So all you have to do is buy the cheapest pack, which has the hardest levels in it as well. So that's, both pluses. It's like $1.20 or something, and you get access to all of the custom game levels people have made, and you can make all your own custom levels and things. I think it's a really good deal either way, if you buy all the levels or if you just buy the cheap one and get the custom levels.
It's almost like choose your own support if you want to for the game, right?
Yeah.
Spend $1. Here you go.
Or-
I like the game.
I'll
So how much?
disagree.
How much is it if you buy everything?
$10.
You could put that $10 towards a real game. I mean,
It may be cute, but it's a puzzle game, and it gets really, really hard.
That's
It's,
what
a,
you
it's a
think?
brain tickler, this one.
I disagree with that. I think what the whole thing here is that Nintendo has finally learned how to sell a game, and they learned a great lesson from the drug community. First one's free.
I'll get you hooked.
And
Gotcha.
they get you by the hook. They hook you in, and then they're like, "All right, now baby, buy some more. You got to get them levels."
Would you like a
One
free
down.
sample?
well,
You don't have to
definitely
buy
of no
it.
interest to
Oh,
me,
no.
but
Oh,
feel
no.
free to continue to wax.
I mean, it looks like a good puzzle game. If you like puzzle games, I mean, and you got a 3DS, go for it. I mean, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Definitely
especially
cute.
since it's free to start, you might as well try it.
Might as well. That's how they're gonna hook you. Right
That's how
there.
they get you. That's how they
Oh,
get you.
Final Fantasy. Wait, what's Final Fantasy? Final Fantasy.
Okay, the next news item is Final Fantasy X/10-2.
Love it.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm a fan. I love the chocobos, okay? That's all there is to it.
I like to chocobo too.
It was I briefly owned a PlayStation 2, and it was primarily to play 2 games. One was Gran Turismo, which I think at that point was the first for the PlayStation 2, the Gran Turismo A-Spec, Gran Turismo 3, and then Final Fantasy 10, because I'd been such a fan of the other games in this series. I bought my PlayStation primarily to play those 2 games. I did play a few other things. Of course, what I'd be waiting for is a release of that game on PC, which I'm thinking it could happen someday. I mean, they have been, Square Enix has been releasing slowly but surely the older Final Fantasy games for PC. As far as the original PlayStation generation is concerned, they have 7 and 8 available. I'm hoping for 9 because that was my favorite out of those 3. If they ever came out with the PC version, I think I would probably buy that and play that again.
I will say that I'm on the same boat here as far as with Ultima. I really liked Final Fantasy X. It was my favorite, and I don't know if that's fair or not because Final Fantasy X was one of 2 that are the only ones I've completed. I completed Final Fantasy X, and I've completed Final Fantasy 13. And I have skipped around here and there through the rest of the series, and they all seem pretty good. But Final Fantasy X blew me away. It was really good, and I can't wait to pick this up. I'm
has
glad I'm getting it.
It has underwater soccer. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
OBS keeps showing me as muted and not muted. I'm confused whether I'm getting muted or not. People that say it's been fine, but I don't know. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. Anyway,
It's
I'm
playing with
sure people would type in chat. If
yeah,
they were
well, they've been
so.
saying it's fine, so I wonder if I was muted right then. But anyway, Final Fantasy X is my favorite Final Fantasy game by far, having not played much of 7, 8, or 9, and people say 7 or 9 are usually the best. But people underrate the value of a big mini game like Blitzball. That's what it's called, Underwater Soccer Blitzball.
Yeah,
in the game. I used to play that for hours. I never actually finished Final Fantasy X, and I'm planning on eventually doing like a big Final Fantasy, play all the Final Fantasies or something like that on my stream. But
sometimes I would load up the game
so
and do nothing but play Blitzball for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
you know,
it was so good. And building your team and picking what players you wanted in your thing, and then picking what special moves you want to use, whether you wanted to use the Ject Kick or the other ones that you unlocked later on.
Yes.
Oh,
please release this for PC.
It was so great. It'll never be on PC, but I'm definitely going to get a PS4 at some point and play it.
I mean,
PS3, PS4, I need them.
I have a feeling Final Fantasy IX will be coming relatively soon. Maybe
well,
before the end of the
actually,
year.
yeah, Final Fantasy X is on PC, so Final Fantasy VII
remake.
I bet it's coming.
9. Because I mean, this remaster is pretty, as you can see by the video that Ultima's showing. I mean, like the overall color contrast is a lot better. It's a lot crisper and everything. But like an overall remake of the game, probably by far would make me want to buy it. This remaster, I mean, it's pretty, but I'd probably wait till it even gets cheaper or something like that.
About remakes and remasters, I would say Final Fantasy X is the first Final Fantasy that doesn't need to be remade. As far as, well, you know, the very old 2D ones you could remaster as new 2D versions, that's fine. The 3D ones starting at Final Fantasy X, you could just remaster because they're fully functional 3D games. But Final Fantasies 7 through 9 all need remakes because the 3D characters in 2D backgrounds is so bad. It was good at the time, it was amazing,
Yeah.
but it went so far beyond that.
That drove me away so much.
It's terrible.
It made my brain hurt. It made my brain hurt trying to play that.
I'm okay playing fully 2D games like Final Fantasy. I played Final Fantasy 1 on the PSP, and it was fine. It wasn't that good. It wasn't as good as a new game, but it was fine. It played all right because 2D gameplay hasn't changed that much. 2D gameplay is 2D gameplay. 3D gameplay is still 3D gameplay, but damn! 3D characters and 2D worlds moving around is so bad. I'm so glad we moved on from that. Please remake those games so that they're actually good. I'll play them. I'll play them if you remake them. They're probably still good.
Make it to where it just makes more sense. I mean, the actual gameplay itself was obviously really good. It's one of the one of the biggest games that people talk about being one of the it's the best game of all ever. You know, I see why they say that for a lot of reasons. But as far as the whole 2D 3D thing, I can't even, no words. Just disgusting.
It's like when you go to an old game, whether it plays like a new game or whether it plays like an old game. So those games will permanently play like old games till they remake them. Anyway, the final piece of news, and this is just a very small news item, there's not much to say about it, but Bethesda has finally revealed, everybody's been worrying about what they're going to do at E3, and this isn't necessarily all they're doing at E3, but they are going to be showing a new Doom game at E3. And who knows, maybe it's just a remake of an old game, whatever. But it's probably a new Doom game at E3.
It's Doom 4. They scrapped. They had been working on Doom 4 as far back, I believe, as 2011 or 2012 at the latest. And then they came out and said, you know, people were wondering when are we going to see some screenshots or gameplay footage, and they said, well, you know what, we've scrapped it. It just wasn't up to our standards for the series. So they started over. So this is going to be Doom 4, or they might call it something else, but it will be Doom something. And you know, I'm looking forward to it just because I have no problems with shooters like, say, Deus Ex that have a really deep and involving story and lots of choices. But there's something to be said for old school FPSs where you just run forward, shoot everything that moves. And not have to worry about people getting in the way and talking and stuff like that. Just straightforward killing. And id Software, they've essentially said that that's what they're going for. This is old school Doom, just with a nice, you know, obviously updated graphics and gameplay.
I just hope it's not another Duke Nukem issue. It better be good.
I'm sure it'll be good.
Well, you're talking about Duke Nukem Forever.
Right.
You're talking about, Duke.
Which,
right.
Very quickly about Duke Nukem Forever, I own that, and I've played some of it. I enjoy things that people hated about it, like playing in little RC cars, becoming a tiny man, and doing some platforming, and the completely over the top is so sexist and so immature and stupid. It's fine. That's what Duke Nukem is. But the mouse on the PC is so shitty. It has forced mouse acceleration. There aren't even like DLLs you can mess with to fix or anything. That ruined the game for me. All the other things that people hated, I was okay with, but the mouse control, holy shit, was bad.
Anyway, if you go to Bethesda's YouTube channel, you can see a whopping 3 seconds of video from the new Doom game. It's a Revenant. Revenant are these skeletal creatures that have like these shoulder-mounted rocket launchers. One of these things is like walking forward and firing. So we've got another 3 weeks or so before we'll get a full reveal, along with whatever else they have.
I am so excited for E3.
Anyway,
Yeah.
no talk about E3 anymore. We're moving on. Moving on now to the topic of the day, which is PC gaming. The glorious PC master race. And you know what? While somebody takes it away, I'm going to go find a great graphic for the stream.
I'm gonna hashtag it.
All right.
Hashtag it.
Well, so I'll take it away because I was the one that suggested this topic for a couple of reasons. One is to talk about what the advantages and from time to time the disadvantages of PC gaming are, because I'm sure there's a lot of people here watching that don't do much PC gaming, even if they have a PC. You know, they might do the majority of their gaming on consoles or handhelds, perhaps. And secondly, to debunk the myth that you need to spend $1,000 or more to get a decent gaming PC. You don't. Granted, a decent gaming PC is going to cost you more than a console, but you're also getting more than a console. You're getting a full-fledged PC that can do other things, including, you know, streaming any game that you can run on it, doing your video editing if you like to throw stuff up on YouTube. So that's, you know, and I think this one will definitely be a little more minimal than we usually are. If you have any questions or comments that you want to throw up in chat for things you'd like to address when we're covering this topic, that'd be great. For me, I build my own PCs. You don't have to build your own. I would recommend that you give it a shot because that's going to save you the most money. But there's no problem with buying a pre-built machine if it's made for gaming.
And then break it apart, right? Buy a pre-built, break it apart, build it. There you go.
There are plenty of boutique system builders out there. I mean, just for example, Cyberpower PC? Cyberpower, Origin, Falcon Northwest, which is really expensive. And depending on where you live,
obviously.
Depending on where you live, there might be local shops. I know there's a couple where I live that do custom built PCs. But when I build my own, for me, it's all about the satisfaction I get of having built it. Just like somebody that likes to work on cars, you know, enjoys getting in there and getting dirty. And, you know, I don't know anything about cars, so I couldn't tell you exactly what they do. But I think the same thing applies. It's if you're going to get into PC gaming as a hobby, building your own PC, I think, is like the ultimate expression of that hobby. You know, this is my baby. I built it, or maybe even a friend helped me build it. That for me is one of the biggest draws of PC gaming. From a couple times I've pre-purchased, I've purchased some pre-built machines because I just needed something quick and dirty and fast and didn't have time to place an order and wait for everything to arrive. But when it comes to gaming, it's the only platform that I use these days. Nothing against people that play consoles, although I occasionally make fun of them.
You hating on the console?
But for me,
I got some pros for the console, so you just wait.
Well, hey, let's, and of course, when we talk about, the many advantages of PC gaming, there are, for some people, going to be some disadvantages to PC gaming as well. One of which I'm going to guess here that this might be one of yours, Stealth Monkey. I'm going to guess, and you can elaborate on this or tell me if I'm wrong, that consoles, if you're playing a console in your home, in your living room, it's a little bit more of a social, or it can be more of a social experience.
And here we are sitting on PCs being social with each other.
Well,
Hey.
but I mean, a lot of console games, like there are games for console that are also on PC that have like a split screen option, so two people can sit on the couch or whatever and play together. Whereas the PC version of that same game may not have that feature. So
that is one thing you don't see anymore. You used to see it sometimes. I remember playing some PC games when I was younger that were split screen, but you hardly see that anymore unless it's something co-op on the screen like Castle Crashers.
It's quite frustrating that they don't do that very often.
So I can kind of run through a little bit of the pros of it. So the pros of the PC, right? You got better specs usually, right? Right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Potentially
I mean,
better
even-
specs. Obviously,
Well, yeah,
if you
potentially.
don't have enough money to buy a console and you spend less than that money to build a PC, you won't have better specs than a console.
Right,
But
right now, to specifically address that, right now, with the the new generation of consoles having been out for a little over a year, any mid specification part for PC, specifically the GPU or the CPU, is going to totally outperform what is inside those consoles. They do need to be a little bit more powerful because the operating system, in this case Windows, whatever,
and you probably have
does
background
take some
software.
resources. Right, you do have some things running in the background as well, so they need a few more cycles that otherwise are dedicated just to gaming on the console. But
Okay,
yeah.
so then you got a bigger community for game mods, right? For the PC. On the Xbox, you're breaking warranties and all that stuff. So we already talked about modding previous podcasts. If you guys haven't checked that out, definitely go check that one out.
Yeah, pause
Backwards-
podcast, go watch that one.
Right, post podcast, and then backwards compatibility with the PC, right? And then you got the upgradable hardware. You can't do that with the console. So the cons, bigger price tag and not as portable either, unless you get a laptop. But that's almost like a console.
Well, as Linus Tech Tips displayed just a couple of days ago, they built literally the most powerful consumer PC you can build with a single graphics card and a single CPU. It was the new Xeon 32-core processor and a Titan X, and it was about this big. It was smaller than the consoles, taller, but smaller. And then they had
they put it in a
two
slimline case.
SSDs in there. They were stuffing everything in there. So you can do it, but realistically you won't.
Right,
It'll
right.
be bigger. Although my computer has a giant handle on it, so
And
it'll
real-
weigh
But
it.
the thing is,
pretty
the
portable.
smaller you want
But
it
it's
to
heavy.
be, the bigger the price.
Right.
That's what you're looking at, because if you want that power and the portability together, you're gonna pay for that convenience.
Yeah.
So
Realistically, also, I think having at least a mid-tower case is preferable for a couple reasons. One is airflow and cooling,
Right, you don't
and the
just want
second is room for expansion. If you're going with a mini tower case or a slimline with many of those designs, if you were to decide to add a second graphics card or a bigger graphics card, there may not be room. But with most cards these days, and most like mid-tower cases or bigger, you can fit pretty much everything in there that you'd want to.
Yeah, with my PC, I not too long ago now upgraded to the R9 280X graphics card, and it is the maximum size that can fit in my case.
Yeah.
It's like this much space behind it, and then there's the drive cage. So
Here's what
you do
I
have
want
to
to
be
hear.
careful about that.
Here's what I want to hear your opinion about, because I think it's for all three of you, because I think it's one of the most alluring aspects of PC gaming for me, and that is the fact that it is an open platform. And I will let you guys run with what
Right.
that means and what the advantages of
You know
that are.
The core thing to me about PC gaming is that it's an infrastructure, and that's it. You can build whatever PC you want. You can run, soon enough you'll be able to run Linux realistically on a gaming machine. As more and more games supporting to Linux, especially indie games. Steam, Valve are putting all their games to it. You can run any OS, any hardware, any software you want. Almost, Linux is still catching up with games. And now there are platforms like Steam and GOG where anybody, through various means, can publish their game, or you can just publish it yourself, like Minecraft. But that's a bit unrealistic to get any good sales. But you can go through Steam Greenlight. You can apply directly to GOG. I went through this to look it up how it goes. You just apply to GOG. You tell them about your game, send them some YouTube videos and stuff. And then if they like the game and they want to sell it for you or host it for free, they'll ask you for a copy of the game, and they'll look at you. So the PC is open to everyone.
Right.
And you could be really dirt cheap and have a piece of crap PC, and you can still play games on it. And there are games you play, and you can even play some high-end games on terrible settings. Like Skyrim has hacks and mods to run it in absolute garbage settings and stuff. So the PC is just the ultimate customizable platform that anyone can have access to. It's
Right.
not like
And-
So if you want to be an advanced user, then definitely go for a PC over a console.
Almost
Pretty much
certainly.
is what I would say.
If for anybody that's wondering that may not be aware of this, how that compares or what the equivalent of that is in the console world, when OPNerd here is talking about how anybody can develop, okay, yes, anybody could also start creating a game for any of the consoles. And I'm specifically thinking of the Xbox One or the PlayStation, but you need to pay licensing fees to Microsoft or Sony to publish games for those systems. And they're not cheap. They're relatively expensive. The numbers may vary on the game, but that is the retail cost, the amount of money that you pay for these new consoles, especially when they come out, is actually less than what it costs those companies to build them. And they're okay with that. Microsoft and Sony don't mind losing money on every sale of an Xbox One or a PS4 because they make up for that in the software sales with those licensing fees. So when we're talking about how anybody can develop for the PC, that's what we're talking about. You can develop a game and you do not have to pay a licensing fee to anybody to get your game out there. Now, when you're selling your game on a service, for example, such as Steam, Steam takes their cut, Origin's going to take their cut, but you don't need to put money up front to make your game available.
Mm-hmm. And the development tools for PC are largely free as well. Even the
whole
primary,
community.
like most big games are made in C++. C++, the programming language that basically gives you the lowest level access to everything. You can reinvent the wheel, and your wheel might end up as a triangle, but you can reinvent it. You know, if you're really good, it'll be an actual circle. I'm not that good yet, so you know. But and you can publish it. You don't need to pay anything to Microsoft for having used Visual Studio. Obviously, if you sell it on Steam, they'll take their cut. But you could develop a game in Visual Studio. You can use free libraries to do graphics and all, like OpenGL. You can use
Your own
SFML to make
self-promotion.
Windows. You can make it cross-platform, and you can sell it on your own website. You can do everything for free if you have a
work
PC.
with everybody and everything.
Yeah, and you can, and as long as you know how to develop it, or you can look up free tutorials. You know, that's why it's so open. That's why even people, I see people in Brazil making games who are on these garbage computers that they managed to scrap together, just because you don't have to pay anything to do it. Whereas just to get the tools to develop for a console, you have to pay. Just to start developing for a console, unless you're porting an already pre-existing game to it, you just have to buy the tools and then port it to it. You know.
Another advantage of open platforms is nobody is there to prevent you from putting any game out there. Now, for example, with the major studios for a release that's going to be cross-platform or even exclusive on the consoles, you have to be able to pitch the idea to them where they're going to back you and provide, hundreds of thousands to possibly millions of dollars to develop a game. Again, it kind of ties in with what OPNerd was saying. If you have the tools and the knowledge, you can build this yourself. But a lot of games on consoles are actively blocked. Games that the general public might like, but
Like
they get
Goat
killed.
Simulator.
They get killed before. They get killed, at least as far as console releases are concerned, because Microsoft and Sony will say, we don't really want. Yeah, we don't like that type of game,
Right.
and so your dream game may never find its way to those platforms. A couple that come to mind. These are games that anybody that's used Steam before has at least seen on the front page. The Euro Truck Simulator and one of those train simulators.
Farm Sim
those
too?
probably, but those publishers were looking to see. They were trying to get into discussions with Microsoft and Sony and saying, "Look, these games sell like hotcakes on PC.
For some reason.
Is there any way we can put them on your systems?" And Microsoft and Sony just said, "No, that's not our audience. That's not our core
You're not
audience." So
Minecraft. We don't want you.
Microsoft and Sony are basically saying, "We know what you want and what you don't want, and we're going to make those decisions for you." On the PC, nobody can do that.
Yeah, that's the thing I really love about PC, is that no one is in control. If you want to do something, you need the hardware, obviously, but other than that, you're free to do whatever you want. And if people hate it, well, make a new Twitter account.
What about you, Brotaku? What
Sitting there
draws
quietly.
you? What draws you to?
One of the things that I actually was going to talk about right there, and we just talked about before the stream, is, like I said, my graphics card is already pretty much behind. And I bought my graphics card when it was top of the line, like two and a half years ago, and it already
What is
can't play
it?
The Witcher 3 on the low. It's a GTX 580, and it is literally at the minimum specs for The Witcher 3. Now I can basically almost max out The Witcher 2, but to me, it's one of those disadvantages of PC. I mean, I love PC, and I love how open it is, and I love all these things about it. But as far as the money you got to spend on it to upkeep it, that sucks. But it's in the end, to me, it is worth it. Now, I will disagree with in a year running into a problem with the graphics. I don't think that's true. I think if you build a good build, it should last at least 3 years at this point. Now that is becoming an issue though, because as technology is increasing faster, so are these games, and that's why you see. I mean, look how ridiculous The Witcher 3 is compared to The Witcher 2. I mean, you got these games that are coming out that are so insanely. They need so much spec wise out of your computer over something that came out a year ago.
However, there is that what you're talking about right there, the advancement of technology and how and first to be said, right now, if you were to buy a mid-range graphics card, something, let's say at $300, that's going to be good enough to play any game that's going to come out on PC probably for the next 3 years. Now, getting close to the end of that 3-year cycle, you may have to run that game on medium settings. But the other thing that drives the technology in games and how much people put into it are the consoles. Because for games that are going to be cross-platform, for games that publishers want to sell millions of copies and make billions of dollars on, you have to make certain it runs fairly well on the consoles. And they're not going to spend too much time, if any time at all, making the PC version much better, adding new features, maybe creating higher resolution textures. As the years go on and these current consoles are still on sale, the only games that are truly going to take advantage of the latest hardware are going to be PC exclusives, or even if they are multi-platform, the gap between the console version and the PC version is going to be so great that it's almost going to, at that point, compel some people, this happens with every generation, to say, you know what, I see the way the game looks on my Xbox, and now I see the way it looks on the PC. It's time to think about building PC.
I need to point out something that you said, MrBrotaku. You said, when I bought my graphics card 2 years ago, it was top of the line. The GTX 580 came out in November 2010. 2 years ago, in 2013, the GTX 780 was out.
Okay, so my bad. I guess my computer's older than I thought it was.
Yeah, your computer's older than you thought it was. Just need to point that out before people get some misinformation.
So, hey,
before people get misinformation, I need to clear that up.
So would it be alright if I bring
up... All right, so thanks for correcting me there. I appreciate it.
I was like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right. Hey!
I'm going to talk about the goodness inside the consoles, though, okay? So...
The Wii U was supposed to be...
Games for the console are optimized for the console. True? Have you seen that?
I would disagree.
True,
I would disagree. Okay.
Optimized is a strange word people use.
The truth behind that is that because the hardware is the same in every console, when you've got it up and running, when your game is up and running on the console, it'll work for every Xbox One and every PS4. As far as optimizing, when these new consoles comes out, developers are still learning the ins and outs. And this was especially true with last generation's PS3 because it used a CPU architecture that not too many people were familiar with. It was made by Motorola. It's the Power PC, and which used to drive the older generation of Apple Macintosh computers. It takes console developers some time to get used to these new systems so they can push them to their limit. Because consider this, Oblivion and Skyrim both were available on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Yet, look at the difference in technology and the graphics and how smooth those two games run on the same system. Oblivion came out very shortly after that generations of consoles was released, whereas Skyrim was released closer to the end of the lifespan. So the developers learn to utilize the hardware in consoles the longer their life goes on. So yeah, when you say optimization, that's
that right there. What you just set up, OP, that's where the advantage is. It's not the fact that it's optimized. It's the fact that over time it becomes better because people get better at making games. So I mean, you can look at some of the later releases on PS3, like you said, Skyrim, and how even as bad as it was coming out on PS3 compared to the other launches, was still pretty good.
But every game that comes out for that console generation, would you say that they're gonna be good, better? Like the graphics quality is gonna be good. You won't have to update your console to get the same great graphics, I guess, throughout the entire generation of the console.
I would say if you had a PC, let's see, people get better at making console games as the console gets older, but they also get better at making PC games throughout that same lifespan. Maybe not in the same exact way, but the technologies are transferable. When people say things are optimized for consoles, it's not that they're optimizing the code at the ground level for the hardware that they're working with exactly. They're doing things like in Assassin's Creed, since the hardware wasn't powerful enough for what they wanted, they limited the number of people on screen. And in games, they limit, like, foliage pops in at a certain distance from you. That's what optimizing means. Usually you have, platform-specific code, but it's not like they have this, we can produce this thing that requires an i7-4770K on a PC, we can optimize it for the console, and it'll only need this, and we can do the same thing. Optimizing is a very, it came about back in the 360 and PS3 era because people were porting. It was porting all the time. They made a console game and they ported it to PC, and they barely bothered changing anything at all, and so it ran like shit. They didn't change the libraries properly. They just did the bare minimum to get it done, and they did the minimum optimization. It's not that people optimized for consoles, it's that they didn't optimize for PC.
I can't tell you how many times I have cried real tears when I get a new game that's been ported over from the console, and you have to use the arrow keys to navigate through the menus. They don't even have they don't even have mouse support. And I remember when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out, one of the big things that irked PC players was that it was strictly going to be peer-to-peer networking for the multiplayer. You could not rent dedicated servers. And so the crowd at this announcement they did were like, so are there any features of Modern Warfare 2 that are like that take advantage of the PC? And they're like, yes, you can use the mouse. We were like, we already knew we could use the mouse. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a system, and I'm talking about a console here, that is consistently the same, and that obviously bugs aside, because all new games have bugs.
Yeah, right.
Bugs aside, that when you put that game in and it finishes installing and updates, it's going to run, and you're going to have the same experience that everybody else is. I've been pretty lucky most of the time, but I have had those games that gave me problems, and usually it was a matter of
was it Dead Rising? I think. Or was it Dead Rising? I think it actually had an issue like that. It's like the screen, the instructions, everything of it was just really, really shit. You couldn't read it.
Well, like for example, as a simple example, I have some games on Steam, and they're usually smaller indie games that require one of Microsoft's libraries, XBLA. OPNerd would be familiar with this, to run. And for some reason, it didn't install
Are you sure
properly.
XBLA or XNA?
XNA.
Yeah.
Sorry. XNA. And so I install the game, I go to launch it, and nothing. And after taking some time and goofing around, you simply realize, XNA didn't complete installing, or there was an error installation, even though it never tells you this because they're silent installs. You go in, you run the executable again, and the game's up and running. For a lot of people, that's an intimidating process. You have to navigate through your Steam folder to, usually the bin or or I don't know what they call the folder, the extra resources folder for the game, find it. You have to know what you're looking for. These are things that probably take a few years of experiencing it as PC gaming to learn to troubleshoot yourself. And we're talking about some of the disadvantages of PC gaming. This is one of them, because no matter how much care a developer takes to make certain that their game is going to run on as many multiple hardware configurations as there are for PCs, there's always going to be somebody out there that, because of their hardware configuration, is going to have a problem. And they need to get the latest driver, not just for sometimes it's like an updated motherboard driver might help, or with their particular CPU, maybe they need to disable a core or something on this. And if this sounds kind of complicated for people that don't know what I'm talking about, it can be. And yes, that's the allure
Simplicity.
of a console. And that's one of the things that eventually, if you have 500 games in your Steam library like I do, even if you have a kick-ass machine like I do, you're still going to run into problems with games from time to time.
I'll add in one of the things that we haven't talked about is game pricing and being able to sell your games
That's a
back.
good
Now
Yeah.
PC does have the advantage of we get a lot of ridiculously amazing sales. Like we were
Praise
just talking
Steam
about
and praise
the-
GOG now.
Exactly. When you go into the summer sales,
Praise
you get like
Gaben.
games going on sale for $2.50 or something like that. But then you got the flip side of it when you go to the consoles. Now the consoles, they do have a lot more digital content now, but the sales are nowhere near as good as Steam or Humble Bundle or anything like that. And from what I've seen, and then you have the part where when you buy a CD for your console and you don't want it anymore, you can resell it. Now that is a great bonus.
I've just been
Here's a
reselling
question.
games.
I have a question about this because although I know, I mean, I live between two GameStops, but I haven't had a console for years and haven't, therefore haven't purchased any games and resold them. How much resale value do those games actually have? Okay, so for example, Witcher 3 just came out. Okay, so when you're done, if you bought Witcher 3 on the console for, I'm guessing $60, right? And a
Yes.
month from now, you're done with it, and okay, I'm not going to play this again. How much can you expect to get for that when you trade it in?
I've just been selling stuff. I've just been selling stuff
It's
secondhand.
usually 30. It's usually 30. They have a deal
At
when a game
GameStop?
comes out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I swear that
I
a
would
lot
know.
of times what
A
I
new
see
game.
is when a new game comes out, like the first month or two, you can get 30 back for it. It'll be like a deal. Or you do what I do. Now, what I do is you try to get a combination. Like one time, I bought The Last of Us on PS3, and I bought it for $55 because I bought it pre-owned. Then I took it back on a sale where you got an extra 50% in when you trade toward another game. So I ended up getting $48 back out of it. I got $48 back for The Last of Us on PS3 and traded that toward another game because I was done playing it because I wasn't going to play it again.
I've just been reselling some of my games. I had to sell my Wii U because I'm going to America, so I don't need the Wii U anymore. Very sad about getting rid of it because I like
Makes sense.
keeping my old stuff.
They
but
only work in Japan, right?
My Wii U, I bought it as a combo deal. It was the Wii U package with New Super Mario Brothers and New Super Luigi, which is like an expansion for New Super Mario Brothers U. I got it for $450 plus postage. On a deal on a website called Mighty Ape, which is a New Zealand website you buy games on. And I just sold it, and because there are no deals going on right now, Wii U in New Zealand, these are New Zealand dollars, so you have to scale it back 30% or something. But I just resold it on Trade Me, a website like eBay for New Zealand, for $460. Because it's currently more expensive to buy retail. And I sold my old games like Mario Galaxy, $50, because it's kind of rare at the moment. And Mario Kart 8 is currently, I'm selling that right now, and I'm going to get close to what I paid for it, just because it's such a popular game, so... You can get good prices if you don't go to GameStop. If you sell through eBay or things like that, direct to people, you can take out GameStop's cut that they take, because they take your game and they resell it at a higher price, unless they get a good deal, or unless you don't want to deal with the stress of dealing with other people directly and having them trying to scam you, things like that, things going missing the postage, then you can get even more money.
So console is good, or it's easy to share games with, your friends, or, trade the games completely out.
Well, Steam family sharing is a new thing, so...
One other
that's
thing
true.
you can do with probably the vast majority of console games is you can rent them. There's a huge number out of those 500 games in my Steam library. There's some that I'm just never going to get to, but there are also a few that I'm going to play, and I'm going to play them once. And even if I got them at a good deal, even if I got it for $5, and let's say it's a shooter that I can finish in a day, well, it may have cost me $5 to buy that game, but if I had a console and rented it, it's $2.50 or $3, and I play the game for the night, take it back, turn it back in, and even then, I've still had the same gameplay experience, and I've saved some money. I know a lot of people are recommending that for a game that recently came out. I think it was for the PS4, the Order 1886 or something like that.
It's like a 5-hour game or 6-hour game.
It's something that you could finish in an evening. So instead of anybody, even if your friend spent $60 for it, I mean, you and your friend could, spend $5 to rent it for 2 nights. You play it one day, he plays it the next day. You turn it in. So that's something I have a feeling in the future will be going the way of the dodo. It's in the publishers and developers' best interest to make sales one-time transactions so that they don't lose out on the secondhand sales. And as we all know, Microsoft was planning on doing that with the Xbox One. There was such a
Yeah.
huge backlash when they announced that
Sorry.
they
we didn't mean it.
quickly-
We
We're
just
just
wanted
joking.
money. Guys, we
just
just
joking.
wanted money, okay? We don't care
quickly-
about you. We wanted money. And
quickly
for some
backed out
reason, you
of
didn't
that.
like that.
But as I think it was Stealth Monkey that mentioned, or somebody mentioned it earlier, the fact, maybe it was OPNerd, they mentioned the fact that the digital sales, the online sales of games are becoming more and more common. And those, of course, are non-refundable, non-tradable. As the console generation gets used to that, what we've been doing on PC for a while, then the publishers and developers will be able to say, okay, all sales are online, final. Physical media is going to go away. And for those people that live out in the boonies and maybe don't have a great internet connection where they can download a 50 gig game, those people are going to be kind of screwed. But the majority of the people are not going to have that problem, and that's it's a temporary advantage for consoles, but it's going to go away.
You know, one of the greatest strengths of PC gaming, as we've been talking about, is the price of games in the digital games market. And I have a huge library of Steam games, and I have a small library of GOG games. And it's great, the benefits, and they're in a way eternal. You know, a digital game will never die, because even if the marketplaces that sell them die, you could still go and pirate it or whatever. Not that I'm supporting piracy, but in 20 years, when you can't buy games anymore... When you can't buy games anymore, the only way to get them might be, you know, somebody's hosting an old copy of it on a torrent. So you just peer-to-peer, get it straight from their computer, you know, that kind of thing. So games on PC never actually die, and even games on console get salvaged on the PC. You can, you know, eventually there aren't going to be that many NESs left. You know, the ones that are being collected aren't going to be used for fear of them breaking and things like that. You won't be able to go on eBay and buy one anymore.
And the people that are using them will eventually break them. You know,
yeah, they're going to either break down
die.
or stop being used, and they're going to dry up. There are a limited number of NESs, and if Nintendo dies, or if they decide not to re-release these games, or if they decide not to release the NES, the only way to get them will be on PC to download old versions of them and emulate them and things like that. So that's great, but it makes me sad, because I love... Look at this. Ooh, here's Pokemon Soul Silver. I can pick this up, and it's mine, and I can collect it, and I can keep it physically. It makes me so happy to do this, and I can't do that with PC games, because if Nintendo's network goes down or whatever, I can still plug this game into my 3DS, or my DS, whatever, and play it. But if Steam goes down, unless I back up all my games or they do something drastic, all my Steam games are gone. Even if I have the physical copy of Skyrim somewhere around here, here it is. If I tried to install this from the disk on a new computer, it would say, and you must activate with Steam before you can play. So this is dead weight. It looks nice on the shelf, but it's nothing that I can do.
Wait, you have a CD-ROM?
Yeah, a DVD, obviously. But, yeah, there it is. I have the whole booklet that came with it. I pre-ordered Skyrim.
I mean, as of now, that's not an issue, but I mean, it is something that
I want
could technically
DRM-free
happen.
physical copies.
I
want
don't
them.
see it happening anytime soon, and the problem with that is they could do it, but you know why they don't do it. I mean, it's all about that security and then making sure that they get their money for every single copy, and you're not sharing it, and everyone pays for their own copy. I mean, it's all about the money.
You know what? Super Meat Boy had a retail version, a fully DRM-free retail version in a physical box with booklets and things. That's what I want, and indies are going to do this. Not many. Big, successful indies like that. But this is something I love collecting and putting on the shelf, and being able to, in 20 years, I want to be able to take it off the shelf, plug it into my thing, and play it. But with PC gaming, as it is now, it's not necessary of the PC, but it is the current state of PC gaming that if you have a game on the shelf right now in 10 years, if you try to pull it down and install it from there, it's not going to work. You're going to either have to log into Steam and download it if Steam still exists, or you're going to have to go pirate it if your version no longer exists on the network that you were with. You know, if Steam goes down, you're going to have to back up all your games onto a hard drive and install them from there, and Steam might do something relating to that. But yeah, it's
By
the
the way,
sad fact.
You guys know who I am, right? You know who I'm supposed to be right now?
It's
Princess Leia.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Close. Lobot. Lobot was Lando Calrissian's assistant from The Empire Strikes Back. And anyway, because you all have somebody made a comment about a hat. Somebody made a comment about a hat, and I'm like, you all have hats, and I don't have a hat.
My close personal associate.
Anyway.
Which, by the way, relating to quick note, Juggalo said, "Oh, I'd love to purchase a hat like this. If I ever do merchandising, it's not going to be shirts. It's going to be top hats. So one day, you'll be able to get an OPNerd top hat."
But what about the controllers too, though? You know, I know PC allows it, but like most casuals just want to pick up a controller and okay, I'm done. About an hour.
Here's
late.
the thing.
So that's,
Here's the thing.
that's another.
I don't consider myself a casual. Maybe
Wonderful.
at this point in time where I don't play that many games.
OPNerd.
But there are. Oh, there goes Mr.
Just
Brotaku.
like last time. Get it together, Mr.
There
Brotaku.
are certain games that are just made for a controller. For example,
now just a hat.
A driving game. I mean, and on PC, you know, ideally, I would want to play a driving game with a steering wheel. But barring that, because it's a it's a pain in the butt to set up. They can be expensive if you get some. Oh, wait, he disconnected just to put on a hat.
I think you already had the hat on then.
Because I went to the future to go get this hat.
Oh, that's the Marty. That's the Marty McFly one, right?
Yes,
Oh,
From Back
nice.
to the Future 2.
Hey, did you bring me a hoverboard?
Do you have Do you have the jacket that has the sleeves that
I'm trying to get
automatic? Okay.
Trying
Anyway,
to
what I
and the shoes.
Controller?
so when it okay, now I lost my train of thought. I can't remember.
You're
what I
with
was
a
talking
controller. Go from it.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about controllers.
I mean,
Steering
there
wheels,
are
yeah.
certain games that, regardless of whether you're playing them on a PC or console, are meant to be played with controller. They control better. I mean, I'm surprised that they even released this for the PC, but 2K Games has been releasing the NBA 2K game series on PC for a number of years now, and they're really good. It's probably the best like non-racing sports game available on the PC, and like unless maybe if you're a fan of the FIFA series, but although you can play that game with a mouse and keyboard, I would highly, highly advise against it. And the nice thing is that especially with the new Xbox One, you can use the same controller with your PC. Right now, you do need a micro USB cable to connect it to your PC, but the drivers are out there, official drivers from Microsoft, and they are working on a wireless dongle, so you can even play it wirelessly. So I really think I really don't think it's how am I trying to say it? I don't think you're not taking advantage of the PC's power by using a controller if that's what you feel comfortable with. Just like there are some games that are best played with a controller, there are some games I think that are best played with a mouse and keyboard. Real-time strategy games, for one, are almost impossible to play with that one. And when it comes to first-person shooters, there's just a greater degree of accuracy when it comes to aiming and doing a lot of other things. Yeah, sure, people can. I know some people. Ultimate Nerd, I know you know him. Mr. Brotaku, you might know him. Infinite Oni. I don't know if he's streaming anymore, but Infinite Oni. Not too long ago, when he was playing and streaming Fallout on PC, he was still using a gamepad because that's what he was most comfortable with. He did, while he was streaming, make the transition to mouse and keyboard, and it took him some time. It does take some time to get used to switching control schemes, but ultimately he liked it better. I remember when I made the switch to mouse and keyboard from just the keyboard when I was playing Doom. The original Doom, and boy, did it make a huge difference. I suddenly went from a very average player to completely owning all the people that I played against that were just using the keyboard. So I don't think there's anything wrong with using a gamepad if that's what you're most comfortable with. But if there's a game like a first-person shooter that obviously will allow you to use a mouse and keyboard, I'd really recommend trying that.
Well, it depends whether it's competitive or not. But yeah, we're getting near the end of the podcast, guys. So if you guys have any final words, I don't know if OPNerd has any after that huge speech.
What if everybody said pros and cons? One pro, one con for PC, and one pro, one con for console. How about we finish off on that?
Maybe. But first of all, Stealth Monkey, you can go last. Since you're the guest gets to shout themselves out a little bit. So, OP, if you have any other final words after that about PC gaming, you can go ahead.
For me, I mean, there are some games that I think I would enjoy playing that are console exclusives. the Drake's Fortune series, Uncharted, I think those are called. Those look like fun, and Naughty Dog's a great developer. There are also probably some platformers that I might like to try because those are almost exclusively, for the most part, consoles. A lot of them. There are a lot of indie ones. But even as tempting as it may be from time to time to buy a console to play those, I am strictly a PC gamer these days. I'd rather, for half the price of a console, I can buy another one of my monitors and just eventually I'll be completely surrounded by a dome of monitors. But I'd rather put more money into my existing system and upgrade it than to buy a console and buy the more expensive console versions of the games. So that's why I wanted to bring up this topic, because I am at heart just a PC gamer. More power to you if you like anything else, but you're not going to see me playing Halo or something like that online.
Only Animal Crossing. All right, MrBrotaku, final words if you have any.
All right, so my final words, I wanted to say something about the whole controller and keyboard mouse situation. Now, I do see why a lot of people use keyboard mouse, and I think it's awesome. I think it's very precise. It's very versatile. There's a lot of things you can do with it. For me, if anybody knows me or if you watch my channel, you'll know that I use a controller for almost everything I possibly can, because my main thing is when I play a game, I like to be comfortable. Now, I will use a mouse and keyboard, and I love using a mouse and keyboard for anything that is competitive. Like if I'm playing online competitive against somebody and it's going to give me an advantage to use the mouse and keyboard, I'm going to use it. I'm not going to be handicapped on a controller, because in my opinion, I don't care what anyone says, mouse and keyboard is going to be way more precise, and it is very, very good for that. Only other exception, mouse and keyboard is the best on Dark Souls.
Yeah. Because then the only handicap he has is up here.
Yes.
All right, for my final words, I have to say the PC is an amazing infrastructure where anybody can do almost anything, and I have so much love for the PC. But it makes me sad when I look at this. This is what I want, but this is what I can't have with my PC. I can take my 3DS. Here, I'll take off the cover so you can see how cool custom it is. I can take my 3DS right now.
Oh, is this the one with the Transformers on the back? Yes.
Yeah. I customize this. I can take my 3DS right now. It's got, what game does it have in it? Pokemon Y. Look, cartridge. Chuck it in, and I can play it. Doesn't need to connect online, doesn't need anything. In 20 years, I will still be able to do that. As long as this doesn't crap out, I will still be able to do that. Whether it's with my PC games, the future is not yet known. With Steam games, all my library of games, they might disappear one day. And I miss the day, and I wish we still had the potential. Steam is amazing, GOG is amazing, online distribution has revolutionized indie gaming. People can now produce games without going through retailers. But I wish we just had the option, because it's possible to go into a store or to order online a physical copy of a game that works without connecting to Steam, without needing any of this, and in 20 years I could still put it into my computer and play it. It makes me so sad that isn't a possibility at the moment.
The question is, though, in 20 years, will you want to? Given how technology is advancing.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it's just like, again, we mentioned this in a previous podcast, but really quickly, I love reminiscing about the games I used to play back when I was a kid on my Atari 800 and in the arcades, but the majority of those games are so primitive that compared to what's available in modern games, they barely even qualify as games, as far as the entertainment value. So as much as, someday I have a feeling that, the majority of my Steam library that I have now it's not going to be feasible for me to play them. Will I care? Probably not, because if I'm still gaming, I'm going to be gaming on whatever the latest and greatest thing is. Unless it's one of those actually like virtual reality systems where I have to put on the suit and run around, then I'll be too old and fat to do that. But other than that, I don't think I'll care that these games won't be playable anymore.
Well,
answer.
For Stealth Monkey's final words, since you're the guest, you get to include a little bit about your stream as well, and when you might stream, what you're streaming. And if you're streaming after the podcast, let us know, and I'll host you up or whatever.
Actually, no. I stream every day at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Sunday. However, Wednesday and Sunday, I change them up a little bit. Just follow me on Twitter just to kind of get that through. I usually stream CSGO, H1Z1, but more or less some kind of variety. So, and I think PCs for advanced users, and I think consoles for like people that want to play games that, not want to be so advanced.
Those people are called noobs. But,
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Please send all of your hate mail to UltimaNerd at. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if everybody's done, is anybody from the podcast streaming after the pod?
I am.
Not I, said the cat.
Witcher 3.
OBS keeps showing me
You're-
muted. I'm really
You're
not sure
muted.
if I'm
I
muted.
can't hear you. What?
Nobody
Huh?
said in the chat, but OBS
Well-
keeps showing me as muted. I don't know.
Is
Anyway,
Ultima talking?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Is he talking?
anyway, just doing the podcast. Thank
I
you
can't
very
hear.
much for watching,
I see
everybody.
His lips moving, but
We will see you next week, hopefully, on the next Speakeasy podcast with a new guest and a new topic. Just as a little departing message. There you go. See you later, everybody.